Hello from Bad Influence. You'll have to hang on a second. Do you want to be rich, drive a fantastic car and have a wonderful lifestyle? Then become a computer games programmer. Yeah, it's called
Yes,
Sausage
Andy,
Makers
I'm
of the
afraid
World
it's not
Unite.
quite that simple. We'll be explaining why the guy who invented this hot new game, Worms, failed to make an impression when he entered it in a magazine competition.
Oh, well. Our main review this week is Shinobi X on the Saturn.
And our games expert, Violet Berlin, reports on a new technique that's revolutionising the way characters in games are being animated.
But first, look at this. This is Populous on the PC, and it was the first of the God Sims. As one of two gods, you control the fate of your own population. You alter the landscape to encourage your people to build houses, towns and cities. Populous has addictive gameplay and has sold more than 4 million copies worldwide. But the really strange thing about it is that the game was originally rejected by all the big publishers, except one. It wasn't a beat-em-up, it wasn't a platformer, and it wasn't a shoot-em-up. The publishers that rejected it weren't prepared to take a risk with a new game idea.
The first successful snooker sim, Jimmy White's Whirlwind Snooker, is another game that could have ended up languishing in a dustbin if the games publishers had had their way. The game was branded as boring and unsellable by countless games publishers.
It's boring and unsellable.
Finally, back in 1989, one games company saw what all the others had missed and snapped up the idea. They gave the programmer a cheque for over £10,000 on the spot.
Have a check on the spot, my good man.
Unfortunately, that games company was taken over and the new owners weren't quite so keen on the game.
I'm sorry, we're not quite as keen on the game.
But after a lengthy court battle... Too late, Andy. The game was finally sold to another publisher, launched in 1990, and it's still selling today.
Theme Park is a great game. In it, you build and run a leisure park with rides for all ages and keep the customers fed and watered too. You have total control over every detail in the park, right down to how much salt to serve on the chips. The real challenge, though, is to make a profit, as it is for the games companies. Did you know, for example, that only 1 in 5 of games released actually makes a profit? The publishers who first saw Theme Park thought it was going to be one of the other 4. It was originally released as a text-based business simulation by a chap called Peter Molyneux. He wanted to sell it by mail order. He was so convinced he would have a massive response, he even warned his local post office to expect thousands of letters and had his own mailbox, widened. Sadly, he only got 2 responses, and one of those was from his mum. Years later, though, he re-released it as Theme Park, and the rest is history.
And this is Worms, a brand new game that's coming out on nearly every format. The game revolves around teams of heavily armed killer worms. Your team has to outwit and overpower up to 3 other teams over millions of different battlegrounds. Your worms have an impressive arsenal at their disposal. Bazookas, cluster bombs, airstrikes and Uzis, even exploding sheep and banana bombs. The last worm left alive is the winner. And yes, you've guessed it, Worms' potential wasn't spotted by the people who saw it first.
And this is the man behind Worms, programmer Andy Davidson. Welcome to Bad Influence.
Thanks.
Andy slaved away in his bedroom for more than 2 years, working with his Amiga A1200 in Blitz Basic, and came up with this, which is the original version of Worms. What's different between that and the game we're going to see released apart from the title?
Yeah, basically this was the first version of Worms which I got up and running. There's just a lot of things I wanted to do with the game which I didn't get time for.
This was done for a competition for Amiga Format magazine,
yeah.
wasn't it?
I thought that basically would be the best way of getting it noticed.
They've announced the results of the competition?
Yep.
And you weren't in there?
Worms was amongst them.
So Worms is lurking in a drawer somewhere, isn't it? Somewhere at Amiga Format magazine. So you knew it was a good game, but it hadn't done very well in the competition. So what did you do to get it noticed?
Well, I knocked another version together and took it along to the ECTS.
Now, that's a computer trade show.
Yeah.
And you wandered around with your discs in a box.
Yeah.
And wandered... Did you go to lots of people? Or?
No, so Team 17 was the, sort of top of the list because, they were sort of on the side of the programmers and they've tried no different ideas before, so I went to them first and put it on, and after 5 minutes said, do you want it published?
I thought that you said, oh, OK then, if you really want to. More. Thanks very much indeed for coming in. Worms is released in November, initially for Amiga, PC and PlayStation, but with other formats to follow soon.
This week's main review is Shinobi X on the Saturn. The game's a new version of the old Mega Drive platformer and stars the original ninja superhero Joe Musashi. You have to defeat the evil Kazuma, who has again kidnapped your unfortunate girlfriend. The game has photorealistic graphics, motion-captured sprites, but is it just a 16-bit game in 32-bit clothing? Here's Lakesh.
For a new console, I'd expect new and exciting ideas, but there's 1,000,001 other games like this on the old machines. It's a standard, flat, left-to-right platformer in the same style as the Mega Drive version. The gameplay is predictable. You fight your way through a level and you kill a boss. You fight your way through another level and kill a boss again. There are 9 levels, and on the first go I got to level 4, so it's not particularly difficult. The superficial aspects of the game, such as the graphics and the sound, can't mask the tired and irritating gameplay.
It really gets the adrenaline pumping. I just couldn't put the game down. But it's very similar to the Mega Drive version.
It looks good and plays OK, but it's not impressive enough to make me buy it.
And the scores for Shinobi X. The boys gave it a rather old hat 3, and the girls a but we still like it 4. Yes, 2, 3, to me, through, oh, no!
Another way to become seriously rich is to become a professional footballer. But if you lack the skills, this is Actual Soccer, a new football sim which claims to be the most realistic ever. The player movement is based on real footballers from Sheffield Wednesday. The goalie's dives come courtesy of Chris Woods. Andy Sinton and Graham High provided the kicks, tackles and other outfield action.
Oops! Several games have used the technique of motion capture to animate characters, but until recently, the equipment necessary was only available in America. Earlier this year, however, Violet Berlin went to visit the only motion capture studio in Europe used exclusively for games.
And here I am at the heart of the European video games industry. Believe it or not, it's at Sheffield in Yorkshire, and this is their new Supertram system. In the early days of video games, most of the things you saw on screen were like this tram. Big blocks of stuff that only moved in one direction, like space rockets, planes and tanks. Now, the reason for that was it's fairly easy to work out how something like a block of metal like a tram should move. It obeys simple rules and moves as one big lump. But living creatures, people, animals, even aliens from the planet Zorg don't move in big solid lumps. All their wobbly bits move around independently. That's why the characters in early games tended to move in a very unrealistic way, a bit like this. As games consoles became more powerful and proper animators began to design games for them, we got characters like Aladdin, who looks like he could have stepped out of a Disney movie. Slick, but you'd still never mistake him for a real person. But there is a way to capture all the tiny details about how a person moves and use that information to make an animated character move. It's called motion capture, and the only place in Europe with a motion capture studio dedicated to games is here in Sheffield, at the headquarters of computer games company Gremlin. One of their latest projects is a PC game called Normality Inc. It's a massive 3D adventure set in a drab, dull future. The background graphics have already been created. Oh, and the fat guys are marking the positions where proper animated characters will be added later. You play a weird and exciting out-of-work furniture tester. Yes, really. And your task in the game is to brighten up everybody's day by being, well, weird and exciting. And talking of weird and exciting, the next step is to use the motion capture system to animate the characters that you meet in the game. And I'm going to be one of them. The technology in this room cost around £250,000. It uses 6 video cameras to track the movements of the reflective spheres. They use red light because it helps to avoid false reflections.
What this capture is, basically, you're sort of seated. Yeah?
Right, yeah.
Kind of stand up slowly with power. There's a tape recorder over here. Slap. Slink a bit more.
Abe, the producer, is explaining to me where the various objects are in the scene. And to help my performance, he's put some blocks in the right positions. The tricky thing for me is to act as if I'm really in the scene, which of course only exists as computer graphics.
Sorry, you shouldn't have said that. Give it a good slap.
OK, are you ready? Let's record.
Now that I'm clear about the action, they're ready to capture my performance. The 6 cameras record my movements from different angles, and the computer ends up with a complete record of my fabulous acting. The next step is to clean up the captured information. As I moved around, some of the spheres got hidden behind my body. So here, for example, this, what, is that my ankle?
That's right, yeah. What I have to do is to re-identify it as an ankle, and also I have to re-identify that one as a toe, because it's lost track of that one as well.
And so here's the clean version of my action, being used to make the stick figure move on the screen. It's the strangest thing, but somehow I can tell it's me. Once the motion is recorded, you can view it from any angle, and you can use the same data to move any graphic character.
Ah, now that's my bit done. But the programmers at Gremlin have discovered some really strange effects while experimenting with the system.
This is that same male character from Normality Inc. Although it's a male character, the motion was captured from a female model pretending to flounce down a catwalk. Weird.
Motion capture technology is set to revolutionise games which feature human characters. They'll move naturally and look as if they're real people set against a computer backdrop. This is a motion-captured version of Violet Berlin, walking as naturally as possible, reporting for bad influence.
Violet reckons she now holds the world record for the most appearances in games, mostly because of making films for bad influence.
And here it is, Violet's performance captured into the actual gameplay of Normality Inc. Here she comes. It's brilliant. I mean, it really is obviously Violet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Normality Inc. is due out for release early next year. And now for some more of this week's games releases, reviewed by our expert panel. Take a classic old tabletop racing game, add some new tracks, a few new characters and a new construction kit, and you've got Micro Machines 96. Incidentally, one of the many games featuring our Violet. Will this sequel have you tearing up the tarmac or tearing out your hair? Here's Lisa.
This is the third in the series of the Micro Machines games, and it's still brilliant. It's got all the features of the first two, with an added bonus of being able to construct your own circuit. This is a construction part of the game, where you can make your own tracks. I'm going to add some hazards here, so if I come off the track, I'll bang into them. I'm placing these water tiles on the inside of the track, so if I fall down into them, there'll be a delay before I can get started again. You can store up to 10 tracks that you've made. This is one of the tracks I made myself. You can add different weather conditions, and I've added rain. You can also change the car's speed and acceleration, but it's still difficult to keep on the track. I haven't got Micro Machines or Micro Machines 2, so I'd definitely buy this. If you've got one of the earlier games, the only new thing is the construction kit.
It's not worth buying this game for the one extra feature.
I didn't like the original, and I don't like this, which is probably because the gameplay is exactly the same.
And the scores for Micro Machines 96. The girls gave it an It's Still on Track 4, and the boys a Leave It in the Pits 3.
The third blood-soaked installment of the controversial Mortal Kombat series hits the SNES this week. Surprisingly enough, it's a one-on-one beat-em-up, featuring 14 characters, including a 4-armed female and a robotic ninja. All the characters possess the obligatory arsenal of reality-defying moves and gory fatalities, and there are more hidden secret bits than you can shake a severed limb at. Does it breathe new life into an old format, or should Mortal Kombat finally be laid to rest? Here's Lee.
The gameplay is the same as the first two, although there are some new characters and special moves. Here I'm using Sub-Zero versus one of the new characters called Striker. One of Sub-Zero's new moves is to make ice shower from the sky. You can also run at your opponents. All the new characters have special moves, and even the old characters are being redrawn and added new moves. Here's a new Mercy move. It gives your opponent a slight amount of energy back, but who cares? Here's the Animality, but we can't show it at this time of day. Even though it's the third in the series, I still recommend people to buy it. They've tweaked it to near perfection.
They've definitely improved the look of it and the characters, but the gameplay is virtually the same.
I like the new characters and the animality moves, but I hope this is the last 2D Mortal Kombat game.
And the scores for Mortal Kombat 3, well, the boys liked it. They gave it a gory 4. The girls, a 3. Now, have you noticed all the reviews this week are sequels to popular games? Maybe the game publishers are trying to demonstrate that a good idea will run and run.
Or, on the other hand, perhaps the game's publishers are demonstrating that they would rather milk an old idea than take a risk. It's just like in the movies. It's safer to make Jaws 8 than a brand new film.
But one of this week's releases does have a new idea. The net makes the internet the star. The film features Sandra Bullock as Angela Bennett, a techie computer analyst who spends her days ironing out bugs in games or tracking down viruses in programs.
But her life really spices up when a friend sends her a mysterious floppy disk. It allows techies to hack into top-secret, highly sensitive information on computer databases.
So what should we do?
Well, don't think about hitting the escape key on any of your systems for a while. One keystroke will wipe out your whole system.
Her life is turned upside down as she's thrust into a world of cloak and dagger espionage and computer deceit.
Give us the disc, Angela.
You have the wrong person. I don't know what you're talking about.
Angela, we're not offering an option here. Just give us the disc and we'll give you your life back.
I don't understand. I don't have your disc. I don't know what you mean.
Give us the disc, Angela.
And as you might expect nowadays, the film had its own internet site. Find out all you ever wanted to know about the film, the cast and the filmmakers. And you can even download the trailer. The address is http://www.columbiatristar.co.uk/. But now, it's time for our very own movie star, Virtual Violet.
Wayne back! Loads of you, including Wayne Firth from West Yorkshire, have asked us to show more beat-em-ups. All right then, here you go. Tekken. Toshinden. X-Men from the arcades. And Virtua Fighter 2. Happy? Nigel Dawes from East Sussex owns an old 8-bit console, the Atari 2600, and wants to know why we never show it. Answer 1. Because it's old, boring and stupid, and nobody's interested in it except you. Sorry. Answer 2. We do, and here's a bit more of the classic 2600 version of Breakout. Old computers can move with the times much more easily than old consoles. And John Miller from Ayrshire wants to know if his prehistoric Commodore 64 can be connected to the internet. Well, actually, it's not as funny as it might seem, because you can. You'll need a modem, comm software, a friendly service provider, and loads of enthusiasm. Abigail Cole emailed, although not from a C64, to inquire whether there's a new Mario game coming out on the SNES. Yes, at last there is. It's a huge platformer called Yoshi's Island, but it won't be in the shops until February. Oh, and there's also a Mario RPG in the pipeline. James Zielinski writes, if you take a Mega Drive with the Mega Drive's 32-bit upgrade, the 32X, and add a Mega CD, will you be able to play Saturn games on it? Well, it seems logical, but the answer is no. Although they're all made by Sega, the Saturn is a completely new format. So, Mega Drive plus 32X plus Mega CD equals 32X CD. And you can only play 32X CD games like this one, Slam City. My final letter comes from Anonymous of Acton. Dear Violet, you are so good-looking and clever that I wish that we could see more of you. Well, since you insist, thanks, Mum.
This week's competition prize is the Amiga 1200 with the Magic Pack and a copy of Worms, which we're going to have to send to you because it ain't out yet. And the question is, which computer language was Worms originally programmed in? Was it A, Fortran, B, Basic, or C, Pascal? Phone in your answers on 0891 800 300. That's 0891 800 300. Calls cost no more than 25 pence each. The lines close at midnight on Sunday. And most important of all, make sure you get permission from the person who pays the bill before you dial.
Because you can't win if you don't ask permission, and we always check. Last week's competition prize was this. Handheld 3D game system, the Virtual Boy, with some games. The question was, what is the fourth dimension? And as 18,500 of you knew, the answer is time. Lee Cox, though, from Dudley in the West Midlands, congratulations, you're our winner. You'll be getting this in the post soon. 10 runners up, we'll get Bad Influence, Bad Crew t-shirts, and your names are running across the bottom of the screen now. Well done.
We won't be here next Wednesday because there's a week of special programmes to celebrate 40 years of children's ITV. So we'll be back in 2 weeks' time.
But you can see us in one of those special programmes. Crazy How Bad Attack is on Thursday afternoon at 4:25, so don't miss it. We'll leave you this week with some more gameplay from Worms and look out for a full review in November. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.